Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2021 Rocky Mountain Women's Disc Golf Championships presented by Discmania. We're at Purple Park in Superior, Colorado, and joining me today is this woman right there, Erica Weir. Erica, we've got Sammy Joe along with Sabrina Donaldson, and rounding out the card, we're going to have Jenny Umstead. And first and foremost, thanks so much for joining.
Thanks so much for having me, Terry. I'm really excited to be helping you out with commentary.
You guys have put in a tremendous amount of work to make this event happen. And here we are on a slightly adjusted hole number 1, 203 feet. Feels like a must-get birdie to start.
It definitely does. Like you said, it is adjusted. We had some issues that went on during the tournament that was a last-minute kind of decision. But obviously, with the wind and the branches blowing, you can see here that even with that adjustment, it's going to be pretty tough. We got a couple people going with a backhand route straight at it.
Yeah, and speaking of the wind, really, really beautiful park and not a ton of obstacles. But when the wind comes into play, I feel like all bets are off.
It definitely becomes different. And, as a person that played in this event and I was also an assistant TD for my first time, I can tell you that our practice rounds were beautiful. And then when it came for FPO to tee off, of course, that pesky wind literally blew right in. So it was a little bit frustrating. But, hopefully as we get to the course, there are some sections that are a little bit more protected. But everybody is just sort of trying to get that first shot out of the woods and going from there.
Yeah, and you see a little bit congested on the tee area. You're left outside the circle. Any first hole jitters or nerves?
I will definitely say yes. Like I said just a few minutes ago, this was my first time being an assistant TD, and any players watching, any fans out there, I certainly encourage you, if you haven't been an assistant tournament director or volunteer, definitely lend your club a hand. There is so much that goes on behind the scenes, whether that's early morning preparation, getting tee signs out, or playing nice with the neighbors in and around your surrounding venue. So we did have a little bit of that. I had been there early to help set some cards off. Yeah, so jitters 100%.
A lot of hats to wear. We saw Sabrina parked for the birdie as she taps in, and then Sammy Joe also making quick work of hole 1.
Absolutely. So Jenny and I chose a forehand off the tee, and those girls chose backhand. So it looks like that was the superior shot for at least this first hole.
And we're completed with hole number 1. We're going to take a look and move over to hole number 2. Of course, Discmania I mentioned at the top, our presenting sponsor of the event. So hole 2, 458. This is one of the longer holes on the course.
Yeah, and what you'll see here as Sabrina tees off, definitely a slope. I'm not sure that the video does it justice, but it is basically, I wouldn't call it a dog leg to the right, but you'll see the basket as we hit that turn further down into the field. You want to be clean off the tee. You certainly don't want to hug that right-hand side. There is out of bounds. So we may err to the side of left versus right, but Sammy puts a beautiful shot out there. I think we were a little nervous. We're like, don't go in the pond because she has great distance, but she's in a great landing spot.
Yeah, the spot to be, as you're just saying, there's really nothing to gain by being tight or to the right. In fact, the trees come more into play. So I love seeing that you guys are, so far 3 for 3 on playing it wide and out to the left side. It's just so much more open over there.
Definitely. If you're on that right-hand side, you are not in a great spot. You're putting yourself behind those trees. So again, we see Jenny kind of erring on that side of letting the disc hyzer out safely. And when we get down there, you'll see these upshots are going to be, I wouldn't want to call them relatively routine, but you can see the reeds in the background with the wind, but we all gave ourselves a great chance at an open shot.
Sabrina lining it up. And like you just said, relatively open. If you pull it to the right side, you're going to bring all of those individual trees into play. And here, you just really have to miss maybe 1 or 2 at most.
Definitely. And her line looked great. I'm not sure if it's the wind or that dish she chose, but it certainly bit hard off to that left-hand side. I'm here with a forehand. I'm pretty sure I'm throwing a Thunderbird here just because of the wind. My hope, let's see if I actually execute it, was to put it outside that tree to come back to the pin. So good job, Erica.
Yeah, very nice. Exactly what you were looking to do. And we're getting even closer to the pin here. Jenny's shot able to go with the high, wide hyzer.
definitely. She's playing really smart, using the disc to her advantage as well as that wind, putting it up high and letting it head back towards the basket.
That's my don't mess up disc.
And we hear her say, "That's my don't mess up disc." So everybody's got their, their superlatives and what they need.
We
Uh,
sure do.
bring up.
Absolutely. Yeah. We just saw Sammy throw, and I know she's got one in her bag that she counts on for just about anything. Maybe we'll see it later in the round. Sabrina with the bid.
Yeah, off the mark now. Sabrina, not someone that that we don't see out on the tour, so to speak, but very much a regional player and plays quite a bit in
Yeah.
Colorado.
So Sabrina is one of those players. She's actually been playing at least since 1994, according to the PDGA. Sabrina is a bit of a local legend. She's kind of akin to Paige Shue, formerly Paige Bierkes, and just like Kona Panis, when they were growing up here in Colorado as kids, disc golf was their sport of choice. So Sabrina's brother was actually a really dominant force in the MPO field back in the day here in Colorado. Sabrina learned from him. She actually learned from the great Johnny Robert. She took some time off. She's got two lovely kiddos, but now she's back and she's giving everybody a run for their money.
And that was a little history that I had learned in meeting her and talking to her this year, as we see you tap in for your par, that it was her brother, Chauncey Donaldson, that was, just like you said, a force to be reckoned with. When I think of big distance players and top competitors from back when I started, he was one of those guys. So it really kind of all, put two and two together for me. It was really awesome to hear that.
Yeah.
All right, we're moving on to three, a dangerous hole number three. We bring the pond into play, unless you're trying to hang it out wide right, or what are you
Yeah.
doing here?
So I'm actually going to go for a layup play. This is how I practice it in my rounds. Now, unfortunately, that was, not going to lie, that was a little bit weak. I would have loved to have been a little bit closer, but again, those jitters are still coming into play. But you can see the wind is obviously still a factor. Sabrina's going to opt for a backhand route. So you do those two choices. Do what I did, layup, do what Sabrina's about to do, and honestly, it looks like she's lacing a beautiful shot to a great landing zone, or you can go for it. I'm not sure anybody went for it today on our card. Just obviously, again, cue the reads, cue the wind. You can see right there why we're playing it a little bit more conservatively.
Yeah, and you see the most common play is up and to the right, where 3 out of the 4 of you attempted to go. And it looked like you maybe, you said it was a little weak. It felt more like the wind just, smashed it down as it was a tailwind behind you.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that was a factor. And if you watch that throw, I was aiming way higher. And it honestly just kind of took off out of my hand. That was a driver. In the past, I've gone across with like a putt and approach or a mid. For me, I'm generally a forehand dominant player when it comes to placement. So that was my plan of attack. Whereas Sammy Jo, even though she hit that early tree, she was able to kind of skirt out and around to that right-hand side. Off to the left with those reads, you can see the orange flags. That's indicating out of bounds. So everybody is just trying to steer clear. And as we get closer to the green, you'll see how the cutout is. It is tough to tell from these shots, but it is definitely tricky placement. Now, again, Sabrina with that great drive, she's put herself in prime position for a par.
Unfortunately, the wind and pulled it a little bit to the right, and now she'll have some of those bushes to contend with. Sammy's third shot, also up and over.
Yeah, up and over, and she bounces right off that basket. I think we were all pulling for her to sink that putt. That would have been great. Like you said, that wind kind of knocks Sabrina off course. So she's here in this rock pile. This is not out of bounds. So she's just doing what she needs to do to get up and over to the basket.
Also a really good run, but unfortunately that looks like a bogey lined up, and here you're having a conversation about exactly how you feel and how you're going to attack this.
Exactly. So you can see right now that I have that lane with a straddle. My thought was up and over. Again, our friends, the trees, are great indicators of just how much wind we were dealing with that day. That was my caddy, my husband, Mike, in the back. And I'm like, what do you think I should do? He said, whatever you do, don't put it up. So I used that sage advice to just try to get it close to the pin for a relatively easy bogey putt. Nobody really wants to go. Can you tell?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the great thing about this card. I'm sure between myself, Sabrina, and Sammy, we've played maybe 4 or 5 tournaments together this year. I know Jenny was in town earlier this season to play one of our events, so it's always great when she and Patrick come to town. They have a great friend, Carl, here in Denver, so we do see them a couple times while they're out there on the touring swing.
Well, unfortunately, hole 3, it's dangerous enough because of the OB that can be deep, the OB that's left, and in the water, of course, but the wind, you add all of that to it, and it just makes hole 3 such a punishing hole, although it's
Definitely.
only about 300 feet.
Yeah, just I think the way that tee is designed, as far as where you're actually throwing from, it's a very low ceiling that you may not see unless you're standing behind it. So it can be challenging to figure out the right route to take.
We've got Sammy Joe with the honors playing hole 4, 247 feet.
Yeah,
And
and
OB deep of the pin.
OB deep at the pin, there is a sidewalk back there. So if you do go deep, the sidewalk wraps around that right-hand side. Oh, what was I looking at? I'm sure I was cursing the wind that decided to change as I was figuring out what to throw. And if memory serves me correctly, this was sponsored by CTP Discs. They are a store out of Wheat Ridge, Colorado. There's a painted circle that if we landed in that, we were entered into some type of a prize and a giveaway. So we're really trying to get this birdie.
Yeah, and I'll admit, at first it was a little confusing because people are like, that's a weird looking 10-meter circle that we sometimes see out on the tour. And it really wasn't meant to be a 10-meter circle. It was just a line they had drawn to create the CTP game, so to speak.
That's right. And again, I was kind of switching from player to TD hat on this one, and I had to explain to people, nope, don't worry about it. You can, putt all you want. You're still outside. We saw Jenny with a great drive there. That pesky tree got in her way, but really great control. Another thing you may not see from this angle is that it is uphill. It's certainly not steep, but the slope will challenge you as to how you're going to throw it.
Yeah, and to put that in perspective, just off in the distance where you see that person walking, huge putt there by Sammy.
Yeah, Sammy.
That's where hole 2 is. So you were just talking about hole 2 kind of plays downhill. Hole 4 kind of plays back up at that same slope. So just a little geography for everyone out there.
Definitely. Like we talked about in the beginning, this is the town of Superior's Purple Park. This is a temporary course that only gets put into the ground once every 2 years. We have so many people that would love it to be permanent, but unfortunately, it's definitely more of a temporary course. So it's a beautiful place to be. Grass is incredibly maintained. We've got a walking path, all sorts of great things. So the course designers definitely tried to maximize what they could. And, everybody that gets a chance to play here really only has nice things to say about it. Gives a great challenge for people who have a big arm, a lot of technical shots you'll see kind of on the back nine as well. So it gives a really nice variety for basically any player.
Yeah, it is so beautiful to be walking around. Oh, look at the skills. Holy cow. The double through the legs.
CTP Disc offers Pro Day every month. Come on down for hands-on tips and instructions for all skill levels. Each month, a different pro will be on hand teaching new techniques to up your game. CTP also has a Lost and Found program. Bring in a lost disc and receive $3 in-store credit. Find your disc at ctpdisc.com. Open every day, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. CTP Disc. Each disc, a better game.
That was a shout out to brother Joel, Mr. Freeman, an Innova teammate of mine.
All right. We have Sammy heading over to the par 3, 325-foot hole 5, and there's OB on the right side, and unfortunately that's the sidewalk that she had found off on that right side.
Yeah, and again, you can kind of see where the sidewalk reaches the edge of that hill. You are throwing from high to low. There's a big bowl we're going to be walking down and around, and again, with that wind, if people are trying to maximize distance with an Anheuser, if you expose the flight plate in any way, it's definitely going to be taken out of bounds today. So Joe just got a little unlucky with that shot.
Jenny's had hit something, which I believe brought it down and kept it inbounds. You're going with a forehand.
Yeah, I was trying to stay safe, but unfortunately, I kind of terrified the people on hole tee number 6. So, sorry, gang.
Here's Sabrina, and you see the wind continuing to push. It was at your back for the first couple of holes, and now you guys are going straight back into the headwind, and
Yeah.
that's quite the controlled shot. Maybe a little short, but very controlled.
Definitely. And this one, it's more just if you can sort of get out to that landing area where Sabrina landed, you'll have better footing for the upshot. But again, basically what we're seeing right now, it goes down and then back up towards that pin with the sidewalk in the back. So this is, oh, did she make it? Did she make it? Out of bounds.
No.
As I was going to say, it's very delicate, especially with that wind picking stuff up. So you're trying to stay low, even though you're aiming for a pin that's high. So it's a big time juxtaposition in what we're trying to do.
See you lining up with the forehand and a little bit of headwind.
Yeah.
And you got to be careful because, like we just saw by Sabrina, you can't go deep. Otherwise, you're going to be with a penalty stroke.
Absolutely. And I would say, having played, I think this is my third or fourth Rocky Mountain Women's. I forget how many, but you know, I've only been playing since we've played Purple Park. Long story long. If you can play clean, you're going to find yourself in the hunt. So, you know, trying to maximize what you can, take those birdie putts when you can. But it is a little bit of risk reward, especially when we do have baskets so close to that out of bounds sidewalk.
Oh, and in and
Ah.
out.
Oh man, it's just as disappointing as when I did it back in, what was that, August?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's I was trying to find the center chains and it looked like it went in, and then just, you know, as I leaned down to pick up that mini, she just jumped right out of the basket.
It certainly was in, and then decided it had other plans. And Sabrina is going to come back after the penalty stroke. She walks away with a bogey. She pushes to +2.
Looks like we're doing some dancing here, figuring out who's closest to make a putt. I definitely did want to call out one of our sponsors from a few holes ago, Fairly Creative Designs. That's Ben Fairley. He's been such a great support of our Rocky Mountain Women's Championships. You'll see designs of his in I think it was our online caddy book this year, but he does such a great rendition of Purple Park. He adds a couple sea monsters to the water and stuff like that. So thank you, Ben, for being such a great support system for women's golf.
Yeah, and he has helped me with a number of things throughout the years, and I can't say enough about, like you just said, everything he does to support the disc golfers, and then to bring these beautiful designs to the disc golf community. It's been incredible, so we appreciate it.
Definitely.
Now we're here on hole 6. You know, this water is very clearable, but it gets a little bit nerve-wracking when you're throwing almost right into a headwind.
Yeah, and again, where we started will be off to the right-hand side from our camera angle currently. So we basically played out, and now we're coming right back. I think you alluded to the fact that we were coming back into this headwind. So Sammy has one of the strongest arms I've seen here in Colorado, and that wind just picked up her disc and turned it right over. So I knew myself stepping up right after her that I needed to step up to something a bit more stable. So I picked a destroyer because I was like, there's no way I'm turning that over. So I'm just going to do what I can to put it out far to the right and have it fade back to the left.
Yeah, and really just a textbook play by you there. I mean, clearly getting over the water is the number one goal, but then being anywhere off to the right side is exactly the position you want to be in.
Definitely. And we'll see Sabrina take her backhand as well here. The funny part, again, if memory serves, I don't want to give incorrect information, but I want to say that was a Mamba, which is hilarious because it's an incredibly understable disc. So I don't know how she did what she just did, but she pretty much turned around and was like, here's what I just threw. But she did the same type of play. Sammy's quick stick just had I think just a little hook, and mine has the apparatus to like wrap around it. So I told her I'd just grab it for her.
That is teamwork.
That's right. If I'm not going to play great, I'm going to be a good caddy.
Doing the work out there, and Quick Stick is no official partner of me over at the Disc Golf Guy channel, but we'll give the shout out anyway. We love it.
And Sammy Joe honestly just threw one of the greatest upshots I've ever seen. Unreal. I don't know how she did that. Low ceiling, low to high. It was perfect.
Jenny has the standstill. Also putting herself on the dance floor, a little bit short.
Definitely. And We're all kind of off to that right-hand side, just that's where the fairway calls for, but off to the left there is a mandatory tree. So we're doing what we can. Yeah, you can see it right there in the next shot to stay clear of that to get onto the green.
And I feel like 9 out of 10 times you're going to be happy with where you've put yourself
Oh,
after this drive, right?
I couldn't ask for a better drive. That was just an incredibly poorly executed upshot on my part. That I couldn't have drawn up a better place to be. So, yeah, again, that was maybe some jitters, maybe the wind. I'll say I felt a little bit off during this round, but Sabrina just gave it a nice little run there.
Yeah, I mean, to some degree, I'm sure you're thinking like, oh my gosh, I've put it here. This is the best drive I could have asked for. And it's easy to get ahead of yourself and, and already start thinking about how easy your par is going to be. And next thing you know,
Yeah.
fully commit.
You're thinking about, the pressure's off. You've sort of delivered on what you needed to do. And then I put myself here. I'm not going to lie, at a distance I didn't feel super comfortable with, especially because of the wind that day.
So this is to save the par on the relatively challenging 372 foot, not relatively, it is a very challenging 372 footer. And unfortunately, your drive is not going to result in the par. You'll walk away with a bogey. We see that by Jen as well.
Yeah. Definitely some work to be done there for sure. Normally, if you're walking away with a par here, I would say you probably take a stroke on the field for sure. Like we saw, we have that wind, we have that water. There's a drop zone that Sammy had to contend with just to save her bogey. So a 3 here feels great. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like any of us are going to be walking away with that.
Mandos, water clears, headwinds.
I think
it's got
Sabrina just
everything.
said it all with that face right there.
And we move over to hole number 7, slightly downhill, under 200 feet, but this one is so protected.
It's very protected. We've got basically a U shape behind the pin with sidewalk on all sides. So you definitely have to place your shot.
And the sidewalk is very deceptive, as you saw there. She just barely got over the sidewalk or onto it, and hence will be out of bounds. You go with the forehand.
Yeah, I had been practicing it. Again, that is, shot got away from me. The wind kind of took it a little bit, and truthfully, it doesn't look like I committed off the tee pad, so I resulted in out of bounds. Sabrina's going to try a backhand.
Stand still at that. Just stand and deliver. And that needs to sit down, and
We're getting the clear.
yes, exactly. The card ahead acting as our spotters. And now here's
Definitely.
Sammy to try and save her par.
Yeah, and she was able just to take it in that meter from the sidewalk.
It just dips out. It looks so good.
It looked great. Sammy is a fantastic putter. We think we were all really hoping that would land in there for her.
You also have the opportunity to save your par.
Yeah, and I'm a bit of a hyzer putter, so I was trying to figure out if I needed to go straight, if I was trying to anhyzer, and I just ended up kind of laying up just to be safe.
Jenny has a birdie bid. And somewhat easy to be tentative there. You know that there's the OB sidewalk directly behind the basket, and with the wind coming in the way it does, you're thinking, man, don't send this, and then put yourself OB on the second shot.
Definitely. And you can sort of see as Sabrina's putt is framed up here, there are roots from these trees that are really prevalent on that green. So even if you bounce out, it could catch an edge, it could roll. And the last thing you want to do is go from, here's an opportunity for a birdie to watch it go sailing out of bounds, and then you're struggling to save a bogey. So I think, especially with it being the first round, maybe hoping for some better conditions throughout the weekend, we were probably playing a little bit conservative, a little bit tentative. I'm collecting myself.
I love it. I love the move. If you're not feeling something, you just step off, recollect your thoughts, and take a deep breath, and then come back and do exactly what you did. I think that's a, if anything, that's a pro tip for everyone out there. If you're not feeling it, step back and reset.
Definitely. I mean, we've seen that I've had a splash out or two, and I think on the last one I had missed the cage completely. So I was just doing what I could to ground myself a little bit as we sort of head into, uh, I think we're on hole 8, right? Okay,
Yeah,
there we are.
232 feet. I kind of run up by the, not quite the catch, but more of like a swing position, because this one is completely blind from the tee, is it not?
It is. So we, again, that sidewalk, which will be to our right-hand side, is going to be out of bounds. You do have the opportunity to put a hyzer out, like Sabrina has just done. The branches of that tree kind of stretch out a little bit further than we all think they do, so you do have to be careful the way you kind of sneak it around those trees. But I think the hyzer play is probably what the majority of us went with today. I have seen a great right at it shot as well as an anhyzer shot work wonders on this hole.
Yeah, and you see that the sidewalk, not only is it all along what would be the left side of the screen right now, but then also it curls around behind the basket. So you certainly can't just launch it and expect the tree to bring it down, because if you go deep, you'll be out of bounds as well.
Definitely. Yeah, again, that's kind of a head nod to our course directors who are doing what they can, putting in this great course, trying to use the features of the park to their advantage just to add a little bit more difficulty for the players.
Yeah, and I feel like this hole, more than almost any hole on the course, if you're not accurate with your tee shot, getting a birdie or manufacturing a birdie is going to be incredibly tough because of these protected trees and these branches right near the pin.
Definitely. You can see that one tree in front of me right there. The branches are a little bit low lying, so there's really no opportunity for you to go up and around. So I just had to sort of lay up by the pin. We've got Sabrina straddled out to see if maybe she can actually capitalize. Yeah.
She's off to the left. So 3 out of the first 3, all with obstruction, and then one of the more open putts is from Jenny, and she's able to capitalize.
There we go.
Yeah.
Definitely. Like you said, this is not a particularly long hole. You do have to be accurate with your drive. And Jenny was accurate and she had a great putt. So definitely a well-earned birdie on her part.
We see all the scores hovering around even or 1 or 2 over. It feels like there's some really gettable birdies on the back, but there's also a few places where you just kind of need to hold on. And excited to show you guys the back half here.
Definitely. I mean, we talked a little bit about the elevation that we've seen on these first 8 holes. We're going to sort of cross over to the other side of the park, and that's definitely where you see even more elevation from the park's perspective come into play.
All right, a challenging hole number 9, 367 feet. This is a bonus birdie if I've ever seen one on a course at 367 feet with obstruction everywhere.
Yes, it is obstruction anywhere. You're sort of on that tee pad picking your path. So off to Sabrina's right-hand side, we see that sidewalk which wraps around. You've got guardian trees. You've got the street off to the left. There's a hedge. There's another tree. When you're kind of standing up and looking at it on a calm day, you're like, yeah, I can make this happen. But today with the wind, it's, you're picking your path and hoping for the best. But even with the best placed drives, you can still kick off a tree and get it kind of a nasty roll. So I think we're all trying to just place ourselves well on the fairway and see what we can come up with from an upshot standpoint.
All pretty clean drives, but still work to do here by Sammy.
Yeah, we still haven't seen, I believe I see the basket just around that hedge. So, if you've hauled off on a drive and watching all of us throw, it looks like we were putting some good effort into that and you still can't see the basket, you still have a ways to go. So, and especially here, that hedge sort of goes all the way around to the left-hand side. So if you're a backhanded player, you can go hyzer, but you do have that little guardian tree off to the right hand of the pin. So now we have a good look at the basket as Jenny's kind of winding up here for her upshot.
She does that. I'm going to ask all of you guys to go out and leave a comment, like, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube things, but also tell me what your favorite hole is here on the front 9 that you've seen. That's what I'd like for you to put in the comments. That'll make you eligible to win something. Oh, and a solid run. Just flashing to the left of the pin.
Yeah, it's great to see it from your camera angle. That is my that's a star Cayman that has earned me 2 aces in the 2021 season. So it is a disc I trust out of my hand. Great putt by Sammy to save that par. She was basically in the bushes. Well done.
Well, having to do some work here on 9. And speaking of work, yourself, and I'm going to say this in every single one of the videos, yourself, along with Ray, along with Kyle, you guys, and the rest of the staff and crew, and my host and Jeff Hungerford, just so many people working so hard to put this event on with countless sponsors and additional supporters. Thank you to everyone for making this event possible.
Yeah, it was absolutely a team effort. We definitely want to thank Josh Kreitzer for all of his help too. Liz Torek, who's playing on the second card, she was also an assistant TD. So things definitely change when you are not just a player, but you're involved in the tournament's well-being and making sure that all your players are having a great time. This is an event in Colorado that our women look forward to. We have people that travel from out of state to get here. I think we had 118 players this year, so it was definitely a pretty large field. So it is a big team lift to pull it off successfully.
On that effort, as you said, to pull it off successfully, and people keep coming, and the event keeps growing because of the way you guys handle things. And you're struggling to close out the front 9, but we're going to head soon into the back 9. Of course, the same 4 competitors, and we're going to see what the back 9 looks like in just a little bit. But hopefully, we'll see. Maybe the wind will calm down. Maybe not.
Yeah, it is really tough to say. Jenny made a great knee putt right there. There's some holes that are honestly, everything's still pretty exposed in the back 9. So maybe it'll decide to take a break for us. Maybe it won't. You'll have to stay tuned and see what happens. You could put that in the comments too there, Terry, right? Is the wind going to keep blowing or not?
Exactly. The madness out here. You'll tap in. And again, thank you guys so much for joining us. That's the front 9 of the 2021 Rocky Mountain Women's Disc Golf Championships presented by Discmania. Thank you, Erica. And look forward to seeing you in the back 9. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys in the back.